guys, Brian Stevens here with the National Real Estate Post, NREP, and I want to let you know that if you want help with your social media marketing, you can talk to Carl White and the Marketing Animals. They'll do a whole bunch of stuff for you free of charge. Check them out. Just click this banner right over there or somewhere in this ecosystem. Now, today on the show, I have Greg Peckman from Hancock Mortgage Partners, who is, if you don't know him, one of the top producing loan officers in the entire country. And what I was looking at is how do we deal with longer turn times, more business, because oftentimes, Greg, like my best months that I had writing loans were my most miserable. So, right?
Well, it's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, what happens, we get so busy, people are like, oh, I can't wait to do the 20 loans a month or 25, but then you have more issues. So it doesn't get easier, it gets harder.
So your production is huge. You write a ton of loans. You've done this for years. How do you deal with it? What would you tell a loan officer right now who is trying to find a way to deal with this increased capacity and loans and volume? Like, what do you say to them?
Well, it's just tough. I mean, because, each step gets tougher and tougher, and it really comes down to your system. You got to have a right system in place to offset that, So for an example, when I was growing, I didn't have the right people around me, right? So okay. I would do it all. I was the fire hose guy, right? Just trying to put out, trying to communicate. And I think you're about 4 or 5 loans as a one loan officer, maybe 7 before you start having a nervous breakdown, trying to do everything, right? So I really think it just depends on, finding the right people. So obviously people are saying, well, Greg, I'm too busy to find the right person. Well, then you're always gonna be in this position, right? When it gets busier, you can't hire somebody. When it gets slow, you can't hire somebody because you're worried about putting, somebody on a payroll. There's never gonna be a perfect time. So I think for me, what really helped was the leverage part of it, finding the right people, okay. and that's the toughest part about the business is finding the right people. Even if you do, sometimes they perform for 90 days, 120 days, 200 days, and all of a sudden they start going down. So that's something that has to be your mindset on an everyday basis. It's not just about writing loans, but how can I increase our quality and being expedient as far as moving from A to Z. And that's something that we always look at on a day-to-day basis. And that's going to be a never-ending battle, by the way. It's not going to be like you're going to be on a mountaintop peak and, hey, I made it here. There's always going to be something to deal with throughout the process.
Isn't it interesting? Because I'm kind of in the same boat, and I've always said that, like, finding the right people that you're working with is the hardest thing to do. And it really doesn't matter what you're paying them. You could find the right person at $10 an hour or $200 an hour. It's really hard to find that right person. Are you throwing money at this when you find somebody and you hold on to them, or what's your approach to finding the right person?
I would say probably about 8 years ago, I tried building my team the first time, right? And did it all wrong. So yes, you have to pay people well, but paying people well that alone by itself is not going to be the end all be all. Okay. You have to find the right people with the right attitude. Some people just want to be part of a team. Some people don't need to get, you could throw $1,000 at them for a bonus here and there, and they wouldn't really bat an eye. They would appreciate it, but that's not really what motivates them. Right. So you have to find people who love helping, not people like you, completely opposite. I mean, I love helping, but I'm more of a, business mindset, try to go get it, try to expand and everything else. But you need somebody to really help your clients out and really take them from A to Z for you, And if you build the system with the right people, you can do that. I mean, a lot of times there's a lot of loans that are closing, and I talk to the client maybe for about an hour throughout the whole process. But my team is moving them down the line, over communicating with them. We have a gifting program throughout the whole process that really makes it nice for them. And then after that, there's a gifting program after closing and so forth. So the system really takes care of our clients than one person could possibly do. I hear these people all the time saying, well, I need to be the person doing it. No, you don't. If you are, you're always going to be that one person.
I talked about Carl White. He said something that I found pretty profound a number of years ago, is we in this business, we feel like we need to micromanage every single thing that we do. Mm-hmm. And he goes, if you could hire somebody who does things 80% as good as you, is that good enough? He goes, it really is. It's totally good enough. And what I do is I hire everybody who I meet. Like, so what I do is every time I go to a place and I see somebody, and I'm talking very specifically about customer service, if I see somebody who's got great customer service who's working at a job, I'll try to hire that person. And I think that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah.
So in this market right now, when you're talking to a loan officer who's, doing 2-3 deals a month, who's now doing 7-8 deals a month, is this a good time to hire, or is it a good time to pass on that and double down on your work?
I think it's always a good time to hire the right person. That's the key. If you come across the right person and it meets your budget and everything works out as far as the numbers, yes, hire that person because they're tough to come by, right? So and that's one thing I had to get through my head too. I'm like, no, I have to get a certain place and this and that. Well, yes, the actual numbers have to be there. Okay, so let's put that first. I did it the opposite before. I said, well, if I get somebody here, I should increase and this and that, or I should help this loan officer on my team increase, and that never happened. Okay. And there's some people you can give them 3 people and they'll still do 4 or 5 loans a month. Okay. So I think it's always a good time to hire. You should always be looking for talent. And Carl White, I'm very familiar with him. I was part of the Freedom Club when they first started it. And that's one of the big things that he talked about was, always look for good talent. Always be on the lookout, whether it's in sales, whether it's in operations. So with somebody going through it right now, if they're doing 7 to 9, you should always have that going. Even if it's 10 minutes a day, putting something in action, or 15 minutes a day, get something out where you're trying to find people.
So it sounds to me what you're saying is hire the right person at the wrong time. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if you find the right person, bring that person onto your team if you could do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times, a lot of people don't think that they could do more, meaning that, okay, I'm so busy right now, I'm at max capacity, I can't imagine hiring somebody right now, right? But you can do it. You can put a little extra time into it. And yes, you can stretch yourself. It's not going to be for permanent, but if you get somebody there that takes off 50% off your plate, what does that look like for you?
Yep.
It's a whole new world, right? You can breathe. You can actually act like a human being. You can get more business.
It's a net gain. It's a +1. Hire somebody if they're going to be a +1, not a -1. Now, for all those who are watching this right now who are writing loans, I always feel like we need to level a certain amount of credibility to the conversation that we're having. And I've known Greg for years right now. Just off the top of your head with one eye shut, how many deals are you going to close this month?
This month, me personally, it's going to be 27.
27. So you're having a bad month.
No, our team's going to be, I think, about 45. So
45 deals this month.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this right now and you're thinking about scaling, just understand there's probably a handful of people in this industry who I would have this conversation with. Greg Peckman is one of them. He's tried true. He's done it for years. He's always been available. So I think the message or the moral to the story is, if you find that right person and you're thinking of hiring them, hire them, but only hire if it is the right person, correct?
Absolutely. There's never going to be a perfect time. It's impossible. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be an excuse out there to not hire, right? So, but if you come across the right person, get them, train them the right way, do baby steps, break it down to the top 3 things that you want them to do, whether it's take an application. That was a big thing for me. And I learned that from talking to Carl White back in the day is if you can get applications off your plate, okay? Now, that's not going to be for every client. I get that. But if you can have somebody help you take information, right? Because how many people that you take information from that don't work out? There's a lot, right? So how much time are you losing then? And I'm not saying not help those people, still come up with a system that go A, B, or C with them, but you still help them to get them in position. But if you can cut that out, I mean, and the analogy that we all heard, right, is like when you go into the doctor's office, right, you talk to the receptionist, you fill out the information with the receptionist, then you talk to the nurse, right? And then if you need to, you talk to the doctor. Why don't we think the same way when it comes to our business? To me, it's totally crazy.
So you're really talking about putting protocols into place. So it's not just hiring an assistant. So let me ask you this. Then how do you train people and how do you put them in those protocols? Because you're saying, before by the time somebody gets to you, you have a deal. So you have created something of a funnel with the team that you're working around. So how do you train people?
Well, basically, just the basics. I start from the basics, but it all comes down to the right person that you're hiring, right? If they have a great attitude, they're going to want to learn, right? So that's half the battle. But also do like a lot of tape videos, do a lot of things that you do on a normal basis. Okay, so if you're a loan officer and you're busy right now, a great way to leverage your time is to record what you're doing. So if you're taking an application, just record that and go through the whole application and then save that video and put it inside like a library. Then you can have, when you have somebody come on board, you got, hey, this is Loan Partners library here, for LP1. Loan Partner 2, here's the library for here. That's how you're going to leverage your time. And anything that comes up, instead of stopping everything that you do, and this is very important, this is something I learned too from somebody who's doing a ton of business. If there's something that comes up and somebody's got a question for you, don't just stop what you're doing and run to them and show them. Do a video on it, send it to them, tell them to watch it, tell them to do it, and then if they have any questions from there, come to you.
It's funny you say that, is because I call those your show up and throw up videos.
Mm-hmm.
The redundant conversations that we have on a regular basis. And so I sat down a couple of years ago and I tasked myself to send a video out to everybody who was coming to think of getting pre-qualified with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the video turned out to be about 7 hours. Because, seriously, because it's like, okay, if it's a VA loan, then we need your DD 214, but we need the member 4 because we have to get our cert. When we get our cert, we got to look at residual. And if we're doing a USDA, and I was clearly biting off too much. So I think the idea is to make smaller videos. And are you doing that right now for your team?
Yeah. I mean, I started doing that, but now since I've had the same team, and this is the big thing that really took us from one level to the next level, is being consistent, having the right people. Because when I started building a team, I was this terrible leader. I was a horrible coach. I would show them stuff and just not be available. Just did everything you possibly can to do wrong, right? But now we've had the same kind of core people. I've had people for 6 years with me. I've had 5 years with me. I've had my loan partner for going on 3 years for me now. When you have that consistent base, and something else too that I had to learn is don't just think about growing and getting bigger.
Okay.
Keep it real tight. Keep the core tight. Okay. And when you get somebody who you really want to work with, who can really help you and you can help them, keep that core tight. Don't just bring anybody in, because that can destroy that dynamic that's working already. Does it make sense?
I have a statue of Socrates in my office at my house, because he famously said one time, the only thing I know for sure is I know nothing, which is kind of how I approach life. But there is one thing I do know for certain, that this market and these great days that we're having right now are going to change. Yeah. So you're somebody who excels in a good market and a bad market. Mm-hmm. This market will change. So if you're talking to another loan officer, what advice would you give them in order to deal with the transition? Like, what are the lessons we're learning right now, and how can we apply those to a different market that is certainly going to come our way?
Yeah, and I learned this the hard way, right?
We all did.
Crash 10 years ago, right? I think we all did, right?
Greg, all good lessons are learned with a black eye. I'm just saying that. Oh my
gosh, I got scars on my back, my brain from it. It was a nightmare. So I learned a ton from that. Big thing I would suggest is database. Control your database. That is a gold mine for you. There's 2, 3, 4 deals off of each closed loan that you have. Control that. Be in front of them. Because it will turn, it will get slower. The refis will eventually go away. Always focus on the purchases. Don't leave your realtors out there hanging. And focus on what's going to be there when things turn around and change on you. But database, I was horrible at it before it crashed. Absolutely horrible at it. It was sticky notes. It was this. There was no follow-up. There was no follow-up after. There was no birthday, calls. There's no chocolates that we do now for our top client. It was none of that. It was just scatterbrained, right? Because it's always going to come back. It's always going to be busy. So I would highly recommend, and it could be one simple step, or the systems out there from your LL system and go right into your CRM. Make sure you organize your database and stay in front of them, and don't lose that. Do not lose your database.
Elise Groves was the best database marketer that I ever knew in my life. She lives in Petaluma, California. She was the first loan officer I knew, personally made $1 million a year. And this was when you had to handwrite 1003s. And she would send them out in manila envelopes, and she would just tell her database when they had to refinance. And she made $1 million sitting on her couch, handwriting 1003s and handwriting GFEs. And I think you're absolutely on spot on this. And what you said a moment ago, I just want to follow up just real quickly as a second question, is you said for you, what you're doing right now is everybody, when they close your loan, the deal is not done at that moment. No. Like, you have a whole system in place. What are the steps that you take with your past client database that keeps you in front of them?
Well, I mean, to start off with, let's back up a little bit too. So when we do a pre-approval, okay, we send out a packet to them and so forth. We want something to get in their hand, okay. Plus, I send a video with me, and I send the pre-approval letter, okay. And then once it goes into underwriting, once we get underwriting approval, we send them a box of chocolates, okay. Then when it closes,
Everybody.
everybody.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody. Then when it closes, we order pizza for them for the actual like moving day. Okay. Then about a week later, we send a cutting board that has their name on it, personalized. Okay. So we touch them about 5 times, sometimes 6, depending on what it is. Now after closing, so we have pizza at the closing day, then we have the cutting board. And now after that, we organize it to our top clients. Okay. So when our database spits out when it's their anniversary of purchase, or when it's their anniversary together with husband and wife, or if it's their birthday, we send them something, whether it's a big box of chocolates or something. We send it to them. But we also follow up with them with everybody in our database gets a birthday phone call. Okay, so how do we do that? It's impossible to do it by phone. So we use live broadcast, and it's a message from me just wishing them happy birthday. Plus, they get an email from us, and that a text message and then a voice message as well. And our top clients get more than that as well. So we just stay in front of them continually.
What's interesting is, like, for somebody who's watching this right now, this is the easiest thing on the face of the planet for anybody to do. Mm-hmm. And in the same breath, it's the hardest thing for anybody to do, because you actually have to do it and you have to put thought into it. Mm-hmm. And I think everything about your business is you're constantly looking at tweaking your business to make it more successful. And that's why you're one of the top producers in this country right now.
Well, no, I really appreciate that, but it's, our team is good, and just learning from other people and learning from your like mistakes. I talked to people when I wasn't, I was trying to get to
learning from my mistakes.
From my mistakes. Yeah. So I know, but just learning and just talking to people and always trying to grow and just not do it all at once. Try to pick one piece at a time and put it in place. If you do that, and then get that in place in the next 30 days. Okay. So that's done. You got the system in place. Like right now we have, there's different trigger points. So when somebody calls in, we know exactly who's going to do what, then it's going to go here, then it's going to go there. And during that process, when the underwriting approval comes out, it hits both loan partners, so they know that the chocolates are going to be ordered, this can be done. So you got to systematize everything. Systems is the key. If you don't do that, but you have to have the right people, you're constantly going to be scatterbrained. And like you said, the easiest thing to do is that, but most people aren't going to do it because they don't have a system in place.
It is. So the moral to the story is, if you find the right people who you think can help you out, certainly look at leveraging what you have to bring that person on board, and then understand that we have to put our systems in place, and we cannot eat the entire elephant at one time. Do one thing at a moment, get it in place, and then put the next one in place. And if you do this, you could be a top producer like Greg Peckman. Hey, listen, dude, I got to tell you, there is nobody in this industry who I respect more than you and what you've done. You bring a lot of great qualities to other lenders across the country. You're always selfless with your time. And I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. I've been enjoying watching you guys for many, many years, man. You were my shining light during the nightmare of 10 years ago when everything just went kaput. And when you guys came on board and started sending me emails, it was awesome. So,
oh, dude. And when I said you're learning from my mistakes, I'm telling you right now, get in line. It's deep, and there's a whole bunch of them.
I know, it's like a trash can behind me. It's just loaded up with stupid mistakes that I made. So.
Oh, dude.
Hey, we learn from them,
We do. That's all we can do. And, in today's world where, like I said to somebody the other day, I said, you know what? I'm like, if I wake up tomorrow, turn the news on, they say a comet's going to hit the earth and destroy it, I'd be like, yeah, I pretty much saw that one coming.
I mean, well, it is 2020.
At a time when things seem to be crazy, this is really the time for people to double down and really kind of look at the people around them, look at the business that you're running. If you're in the mortgage business right now, in 2008, everything we were the cause of in 2008, or that's what the perception was. In 2020, we can be the solution, but it requires us to get up our ass and actually go out there and speak with people and dispel all the myths that exist when you're buying or refinancing a house. We can bring a lot of liquidity into our communities, and all we need to do is follow our ecosystem and the people around us. I hope loan officers are watching this right now, and I hope you take a page out of Greg's book, because, again, I mean, on this hand, he's there. He's one of the best in the country, and what he's telling you will improve your business and your community. Greg, thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.